Alright, today we're gonna mess with this au-d7. I did a video on the D5 doing this little mod to it. I don't know, that might seem a little pointless to some people, but I kind of strive to do anything that I can to these old sansuis to perk them up a little bit. And so this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna take this protection light out of here, and we're gonna put a bi-color in for it, and just to make it switch from red to green. Just in case I wasn't clear on the D5 video. I know I was a little bit vague. Sometimes I get vague on some things and overly responsive on others. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and make that little board. Thanks to this stupid phone, I did a nice step-to-step on making this board a while ago, and I had to ditch the whole video. So you're not going to get a step-by-step today. You're going to get a half-finished product, or a half-finished production. So this is what we got here. Our trusty little board that we put into our D5. We've made another one for the D7 here. And I usually start this by trying to find a 3-pin plug, and that has never seemed to work for me. So I took a 4-pin plug out of a D55 and cut the side out of it with a pair of shear cutters and made a 3-pin plug. That's going to be for your bi-color LED, and that would be a common cathode, and that is, man, these videos sure do eat up time. It takes time to do stuff like this. I used a 696 SSL-LX 2579 IGW. So that's going to be the heart of the little project. And we're going to need the following. And this is kind of redundant because I said all this before in another video. But it worked out on the D5 pretty well, so I'm just going to do it to this one with a couple small improvements. We're going to need these little reed relays, one of these little guys. You don't have to use this exact thing. Oops, I guess it would help if I'd hold it up at the camera. This seems to be an ongoing issue, so we're just going to fix that problem right now. So these I just got from All Electronics, and they are an RLY 496, it looks like. They're a 5-volt SIP reed relay, 200 ohm coil, so they're going to draw 25 milliamps. We're going to need one of them guys. Just to go over what's already on the board here. We're going to need a 220 at 25 volt cap. If you have a 220 mic or a 330. It doesn't matter, it's just you're going to get more ripple voltage if the cap isn't high enough, which 220 actually isn't high enough. It should be a 470, but I'm not putting a 470 in this because I don't want this LED to hang when I flip it off. I'm just crazy about stupid stuff like that. So for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to say a 220 mic at 25 volt, which is what I'm putting into this D7. You're going to need a 4007 diode, which is stuck down in here. You're going to need like a 5.1 volt Zener, half watt. This is actually a 5.2 volt. Doesn't really matter. It's by no means critical. You're going to need some two 270 ohm quarter watt resistors. These little standoffs that I got from All Electronics too. One of them you're going to drill out for a 440 machine screw. and the other one you're going to drill out for a 632. And you'll need to drill the board appropriately for that. Let me just get my calipers here. Oh my, 37 by 22 roughly. There is exactly 11 holes in between the center of this hole and the center of that hole. So you got 11 spaces going across. And when I did this on the D5, I actually had this screw a little bit too close to a path for my liking with getting the nut on the back of it, and I ended up having to egg this hole out a little bit on the first install. So this one here, I just went ahead and offsetted this hole up by 1/10 of an inch off the center of this one to see if that alleviates the issue I ran into the last time. So that's pretty much all there is to that. Let me see what else. You're going to need a 47 ohm 1 watt. When I did this on the D5 the last time, I used a 56 ohm. We're going to give this LED just a little bit more current. It just looked like it was just a little bit too dim for my liking, and I'm crazy about stuff like that. So I will build things 6 times over until they satisfy me. So anyway, getting on with the program. Since I didn't do this step by step, the only way I can give you this is off of the schematic here I just quickly drew. Essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to take out Sansui's LED, which is just 2 wires, of course, going into the board. We're just going to desolder those 2 wires, pull this LED out, and then we're going to make our board, and then we're going to insert our board right back in to where Sansui's existing LED was. So you'll remove the existing LED wires, and then you'll be reinserting the red and the orange in the proper polarity back into the board, back into the power supply board. Let's put it that way. So you will be inserting the red and the orange here right back in to where the LED came out of. You will be taking your ground wire, which we use brown on this because I ran out of black, and we'll be tying that to the heatsink ground, which is real close to the power supply board. These here will go down to your new LED, and I ran into some problems with this. Maybe someone has a better connector than I do, I don't know, but I had to tin these leads on this LED to make them fit into the plug, and then at some point in time my D5 lost its LED and I had to go in there and futz with it. Apparently when you expand these plugs, I don't know what happened, but for some reason it was no longer grabbing the leads right. So just something to keep in mind. This plug was actually made for a smaller pins, I believe. So that's all we're going to be doing, is putting our bicolor into that connector, then mounting this in the unit, which is going to be up towards the top corner of the power supply board, inserting these into the LED existing board holes, and tying our ground wire onto the heatsink ground. Let me think about this a minute to make sure I didn't miss anything. So what we'll be doing is we'll be pulling R11 off the power supply board. That's a 1.2K resistor. I think it's like a 1 watt or 2 watt, not sure. You would think I'd remember this, but I don't. And we're just going to insert a 47 ohm this time. The last time I did this on the D5 and I used a 56, but we're going to give these guys just a tiny bit more juice. We don't want to pop them. We just want them to be a little bit brighter. So we're going to factor in 22 milliamps this time instead of 20. So we got 22 going down through this branch. We're going to keep the Zener diode happy. We're just going to say we're going to give him 6. And we know we have 25 going down through here. So when we add that up, we get 53 milliamps. So we just calculate our new R11 value by the voltage drop across here that we're going to have and want, which is 2.35 volts. And if we do the math there, we come up with 44 ohms. We're going to use a 47. So if anyone dares to make this little board, which is very simple but is time consuming, this is what you're going to have. You are going to have ground wire coming off your board here, and the only thing that's going to be on that ground wire is going to be the negative side of your cap, the negative side of your Zener, the anode of your Zener, and that should be it unless I'm missing something. Oh, and the common for your LEDs. So you're actually going to have 3 ties on this brown wire. And to elaborate on that just a little bit more, you are going to have the center of your LED plug on this ground wire, along with the negative of your cap and the negative of your Zener. That's what you're going to have on there. Unfortunately, I ditched the step-by-step, so you just have to bear with me. Now, on your red wire, that we have chosen to be red anyway, you are going to have the cathode of your Zener diode. You're going to have the hot side of your relay coil. If I hold this up, then I can't see the camera and see the paper at the same time, and then it's just a mess. So on your red wire, we're going to look at this whole connection as red, everything that's up here. So you're going to have your Zener diode cathode. You're going to have the hot side of your relay coil. We're going to have the cathode of your snub diode setting across the coil. We're going to have the plus of your cap. We're going to have those 270 ohm resistors on that line. And this, excuse me, is all going to be your red connection. And we're going to insert that red connection right back in to this. Man, I feel like I'm going hoarse. Been talking to a camera all day long and it didn't even do me any good. You know, so anyway, your orange wire. You're only going to have 2 things on your orange wire. That's going to be the anode of your diode here and the low side of your coil. So you're going to have 2 things on this board connected to your orange wire. That's going to be your pull down wire. We made this yellow on the D5 to preserve continuity with what is used on the D5, but I ran out of yellow wire, so we're using orange. And that orange wire is just simply going to be connected to this collector of this 2SC1845, which generally has a beta of somewhere around 550. If you can find a beta higher than 550 to stick in there for it. If it doesn't, I would say go ahead and shift the beta of it up. But I didn't have any issues at 550 on the last one. So, clear as mud, I think. So I think we're at the point, oh my, 14 minutes later. Man, I feel like this has been like 6 days on this. 14 minutes later, we are at the point where we're going to insert this thing right into this D7, because I just can't go anymore today on messing with this unit. So we're going to need a 632 tap to tap out a hole in the heatsink flange. And as long as you have all this stuff, you're ready to rock and roll. Alright, what we got to do is set the transformer up. that seems to be the easiest way to do this, which isn't always a good idea, to be quite frankly. But anyway, getting back on track. Put the transformer up, unit on its side. Now we got to find that blasted R11. And let's see if I can get this to work. And I think I remember the best way to find R11 is to put the light down in the top of the unit. That sometimes works. So we're looking at the power supply board. R11 is so nicely hidden right up here. This is the guy we're going to need to pull out. He's a 1.2K. And right there's MD6. If you remember from the schematic, there's our MD6, there's our R11. So we're going to have to flip this guy around and fight and futz with it to try to get up there to the top and pull this guy out. So looking at it from the back, R11 is the whole way up here on the very top of the power supply board, and somehow we got to figure out how to get him out of there. And the solder pump just doesn't always fit. So what I did is just put some solder wick on the pair of hemostats and reach up in there and suck the solder right off of him, because you can't get a pump and an iron up in there at the same time. And with this, it's just even less space than the D5. So anyway, let's see if that got this guy out or not. Oh, come on. Alright, we'll give it another try. There we go. Okay, I remember there was some kind of clearance issue up here, and I'm not sure what it was at the moment. Oh, I think it was this rectifier leg up here. So what we're gonna do is put like 5/8 of an inch of Teflon tubing on this guy. Let's see if we can weasel him in there. There. That'll be fine. So there's our 47 ohm in on the top. Alright, enough of that stuff. You missed a bunch of 4-letter words. This stupid thing had to come out of there because I was about to lose my mind over that one. Now somehow you got to get the hemostats on the leads that you can't possibly see, because if one of these leads falls down in here, you spend about 7 weeks looking for it, which there's a little bit more to the story, but it'll break my concentration if I get into it now. So there we are. We got the leads cut off that blasted thing. Now what I was going to say is, when I was trying to fish up in there in that corner, I visualized what seemed to be about a 1-inch piece of solder dropping somewhere, trying to get up in that corner. So now I'm going to have to take the rest of the day, and I'm not kidding when I say the rest of the day, because sometimes that's what the heck it takes. to find out where that 1-inch piece of solder went. You know, if I didn't love doing this stuff so much, you know, I wouldn't even go there. So that's where we're at. This is the fastest. This is the absolute fastest I've ever found anything inside this unit. If this would have been like the G77 or the 55, you know, it would have been 7 hours, but there it is. Sometimes too, this is kind of funny, if you can hang with me on this. Sansui, I'm losing my voice. Sansui has this nice big oval cutout, which does you a lot of favors. I will tell you that. If you mess with these long enough, you will find out this big hole does you a lot of favors. And sometimes things will fall right down through that huge hole and land right on the mat. And then sometimes you don't get that lucky. Alright, 21 minutes later. Now we got to find our LED wires. They're pretty easy to find, but unfortunately they're up here on the top too. So we're going to have to use some solder wick, pull the solder off of these things, and get this blasted 2-conductor wire out of the board, because that's where we're going to insert our relay circuit, right here across 111. I think sometimes it works better to put the light up in the top. Yeah, sometimes. So we're going to take these out.